Hello, Blues Doctors fans. It's really hot here on the Gulf Coast right now. I think it's kind of hot everywhere. And that reminded me of another very hot day at the Old Charity Hospital in New Orleans. And I've got a story from that day that I'll tell you about. So we were notified that there was a patient in the emergency room who came in with a bad diabetic foot. Now, if you don't know this, diabetics who have had the disease for a long time will lose the circulation in their feet, and often those feet will tend to die, basically. Sometimes they can get infected, and you have to debride them or remove all the infected material, and sometimes you even have to just amputate. Anyway, turned out also this guy, the patient, was a deaf mute. He could neither speak nor hear. So he relied on some kind of a sign language that was very primitive. In fact, we got in a person who could do sign language, and that person tried to do it with the patient, and it was reported that the patient's sign language was very minimal as well. In other words, we could barely communicate with him at all. At any rate, so we admit him. And one of the reasons I was excited about this was that as a senior medical student, if you did a good job, you were given kind of or thrown a bone in a sense by letting you do an amputation. That was considered, easy case. That's something a senior medical student can do. So I was all excited about it. So they let me handle the patient from beginning to end, basically. So we looked his foot over and we decided, yeah, we're going to have to amputate at least part of his foot. And the only way we could figure out to have him sign a consent form, because he couldn't read or write either, was to draw a picture. So I did. So the picture was something like this. So I drew a picture of a foot. And I said, okay, if we can, we're going to amputate your foot from right about here. And I drew a line through it like that. Then I said, okay, if that's still not enough, in other words, if the infection and so forth has progressed beyond this point, we might have to amputate here. Oh, and he got so excited. He got so excited, but he really didn't want us to amputate his entire foot. So at any rate, we finally get to the point of taking him to the OR to do the amputation. And we get downstairs, and the nurse at the OR desk stops us. It says, you can't do this. The consent is wrong. Well, we explained to her, he's a deaf mute, he can't write, so we had to do it this way. Well, that's not what I'm talking about. I said, well, what are you talking about? He says, well, you drew the wrong foot. This is his left foot rather than his right foot. Which, of course, I rolled my eyes at that, but I went back and drew yet another picture trying to depict the appropriate foot. When we finally got one that lived up to what she wanted, I guess. So they finally let us in the OR. Turned out a couple of his toes were already kind of falling off anyway. So we amputated through the, as we call it, the mid-tarsals, or those right about there. And we did manage to save his heel and ankle. So he was happy with that. And he had no family. Nobody ever came to see him. We have no idea how he even got to the hospital. And when we discharged him, he asked for money for a bus token, which we gave him. And he walked out on the street in front of Charity Hospital to the bus stop and waited till the bus got there and climbed on, and away he went. We never saw him again. I hope you enjoyed that story. I've remembered that for all these many years, and it was fun to tell it again. I've also got some live music that I've collected from some of the clubs, and I'll share it with you here.
Moved down here at the age of 18.